The number of active cases of COVID-19 in Indonesia by Tuesday are about 12%.
It's been 2 years, 6 million deaths, and over 11 billion vaccine shots. So can we finally say that COVID is over? Well, maybe not just yet. After all, we all know what happens when we call it quits just a little too soon. A lot of countries, including Indonesia, had a premature announcement about the end of COVID even before the pandemic began. But as time went by, underestimating COVID has proven disastrous. So how is now any different? Well, let's take a look at the data. In Indonesia, where COVID had reached its peak from 50 to 60,000 cases per day, we're now looking at sub-500 daily cases, with weekly averages hovering around 200. Bed occupancy rate is also at its lowest level, even in the formerly crowded athletes' village at Kemayoran. At some point in mid-May, it only housed 2 patients. 2 patients in the entire building. And even though just a few months ago we had another peak with the emergence of the Omicron variant, the death rates were nothing compared to what we had during the Delta variant, thanks in large part to the vaccines. It's a similar story around the world too, and this has got people talking about the beginning of a COVID endemic. But what exactly is an endemic? And are we really at that point? In epidemiology, when a disease turns into an endemic, it becomes predictable. Meaning, it's not entirely gone, it's just much more manageable, and not as unexpected as it was during the pandemic phase. Take for example malaria. It's still there, but we just know how to handle it. So when will we reach that point with COVID? Well, for some countries, they're already there. Take for example Portugal, a country with one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. There, most COVID restrictions have been lifted. If you take a peek into any of their football stadiums, you will witness thousands of football fans, a lot of them maskless, and with no limits on stadium capacity. For an example closer to home, look at Singapore, which has relaxed its COVID restrictions since last March. Now, wearing masks outdoors is optional. Capacity for large events are now up to 75%, and up to 75% of workers are also allowed to work at the office. Indonesian Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin has spoken about the country's readiness to transition into an endemic. And as of the time of the making of this video, the Indonesian government are starting to take small steps into making that a reality.
Pemerintah memutuskan untuk melonggarkan kebijakan pemakaian masker. Jika masyarakat sedang beraktivitas di luar ruangan atau di area terbuka yang tidak padat orang, maka diperbolehkan untuk tidak menggunakan masker.
The government already has a timeline planned for the transition to an endemic phase. It's divided into 3 stages: deceleration, pre-endemic, and endemic. The deceleration phase occurs when COVID cases gradually decline, followed by the pre-endemic phase, where infections are finally brought under control. And this is when we enter the endemic phase, which occurs when these 3 criteria are met. Virus effective reproduction, or RT rate, goes below 1%, hospital bed occupancy rate drops below 5%, and positivity rate drops below 1%. So, how long till we get there?
Walaupun angka positivity rate kita itu turun 0,5%, kemudian angka perawatan rumah sakit atau BOR ya kalau kita lihat sekitar 1,8% ya. Tapi indikator ini kalau kita lihat terus membaik ya. Tetapi cakupan vaksinasi kita belum sampai 70% dari seluruh masyarakat. Nah, jadi karena kita tahu bahwa salah satu indikator penanganan pandemi itu terkendali adalah angka reproduksi virus itu juga kurang dari 1. Nah, ini kita masih 1,0 dan ada beberapa tempat itu walaupun sudah ada yang sampai di bawah kurang dari 1 tapi baru 0,9 ya. Ya, kita berharap semester kedua dari tahun 2022 ini kita sudah bisa sampai pada tahap penanganan pandemi yang terkendali. Ya. Nanti kita lihat dari situ sejauh mana kita bisa menyatakan bahwa Indonesia ini sudah memasuki fase endemik. Kembali lagi bahwa Pak Menteri pernah menyatakan endemi atau pandemi itu tidak bisa hanya dilakukan oleh negara itu sendiri, tapi harus mempertimbangkan banyak hal dan juga masukan dari Badan Kesehatan Dunia.
So, back to my original question. Can we finally say that COVID is over? Well, no. COVID's here to stay, guys. But at least on the bright side, after 2 long, excruciating years, we may finally be able to make peace with it.